Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm okay.
Yeah. I see you have a sweet T-shirt on under that hoodie.
I do have a pretty sweet T-shirt on this morning.
hmm Tell us a little bit about that because that's really what I want to talk about. Yeah, there it is. The
It's
Sherpa
a
shirt.
what's that?
The Sherpa shirt.
The Sherpa shirt. It's so funny. We're doing a bunch of like rebranding stuff, figuring all this out. It's kind of fun, kind of cool. And Dan, who made this shirt, is helping us out with it. And we were going over fonts, and I think fonts are cool. Good morning, Mike. But I largely don't have a whole lot of skin in the game, right? They all look fairly similar. Okay, and so Dan sent me a new version of the artwork with a different font, and he was like, "Man, I couldn't sleep until I got this over to you with this new font because we've been talking about fonts, and I don't think this font does it justice." And I'm like, it's so cool that matters to you.
I love the subtlety of particular experts because I learned about fonts when I was in agency and actually came to realize how much of a difference they really make. But I don't know how to pick them necessarily. I just know that when I see two things side by side and there's drastically different fonts, the mood completely changes, right? So it's like,
yeah,
it's cool. It's very cool that you've got someone on your side that gets that because it's those little nuances, those subtleties that really put things over the top, I think.
It's really interesting because I have a moment like that and I'm like, oh, this is really cool, right? That other people care about this, right? Like to this level. And then I have that moment of like, does this impact me and I'm just not aware of it? Or is everybody just really into fonts and I'm the only guy who's not?
Oh no. I don't think that's it. No. It's like anything, right? Like if you're a runner or marathoner, right? Like I might jog a mile, but I'm not running 15. And when you're running 15, the socks you wear matter. All right. When I run one, I can throw any pair of socks. So it's like, to certain people, I think it matters more. I remember when someone was telling me about kerneling, I was like, do I really even care about the space between the letters? Like you just put it in there and make it work. And they're like, no, the kerneling has to be perfect. Otherwise you ruin the font. I'm like, I'm glad that you know that because I would never ever.
I love that. I love that a lot, actually. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Mike. What's going on, man?
All right. Real talk.
Real talk time. Let's get into this because let's talk about Carrie because I think has re-triggered some new conversations for us, right? Because recap what Carrie's been doing in your life, Napalm, lately.
Carrie is a very process-driven person. She comes from a restaurant background and just kills it, right? I met her in a Facebook group. We've had a couple of calls, and she just blew me away with like her ability to just like cut to the heart of things really quick. And so she has worked with some other people as like operations and things like this, and really enjoys it. And I've been trying to work with her for a while. And so finally we kind of figured out a way to make it happen. And I'm super excited because essentially she has just been kind of kicking my ass, showing me where all the holes are and really holding me accountable. And it's interesting, right? Because I was talking to somebody else and they're like, well, I could have done that. And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't listen to you.
Exactly.
Right. There's a certain amount of accountability that comes just from like being able to take the feedback from the person. That's super important. Right. And the harsher the challenge, the better the the review is, right? So you need someone who can get in there and be like, hey, you're being kind of stupid about this. And you need to be able to hear that and not get challenged, and instead turn to it and be like, oh, why? Right? And she does that for me, and is just been really, really, really great. Been blowing my mind. We've gotten a whole lot done, actually a whole lot more done. And so one of those things is being more accountable around my time. So with that being said, Jake and I have decided yesterday that this is the last week of Morning BIL.
Yep. I love how you brought it up too, because you said, I know Carrie's coming for this time slot on my calendar, and I don't know what I'm going to say. Because we were like, what is this? What are we accomplishing with this time slot every morning? And so I love that that's how it came about. It was like, I know I have to account for this time, right?
So, man,
Michelle knew it.
This is not so much of like an accounting for my time, as much as it is really being square with the intention here, right? Because over the past year or so that we've been doing this, Jake and I at different times have both had the entrepreneurialness show up.
Yep.
Of, okay, like, how do we turn this into something? You know,
right.
What do we do with this thing? How do we grow the audience? Do we grow the audience? How do we change the format? How, this like need to grow things is sometimes not always the best thing, right? So Jake has been saying for a while that the best part of the accountability conversation is before the show or after the show, when we're not on the show. So if we're not trying to grow the audience, but we're not doing like the good part on the show, why do the show? Especially at 7:45 in the morning, when there seems to only be like 7 people on the whole planet who like want to hang out with us, which is totally fine. But if it's not growing and it's not bringing new people in, which was the original intention, then we should probably be doing other stuff with the time. And so this is the accountability conversation right here, right? This wasn't doing what we thought it was going to do. So this will be the last week.
Yeah.
And killing it. I don't know about killing it. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty bummed. Yeah, I'm bummed because I get a lot of clarity through this conversation, right? Each morning of like looking back at yesterday, talking about today, and things like this. So yeah, I'm bummed about that. It's going to be a huge blow to the morning routine, right? And I don't get to start every morning with BIL because we have to refigure out how we're going to do our accountability thing. So,
Yep.
But it's funny that this is not. I think that this is more of an indirect thing from Carrie, more than anything else, right? It's just kind of like her, because honestly, we haven't really talked too much about this show, because I was like, yeah, this is just a thing. She's like, okay, cool. We don't have to talk about it. It's like, fine. But the clarity that it's bringing in other areas is making me look for more of that in these areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking. It's a byproduct of having to reassess all the things when you have someone coming in and kicking your butt. And some areas you start doing that in all areas. Because we did originally talk about possibly making this into like an audience-driven thing where it becomes even business development. But John and I have both spent time trying to grow podcasts in different capacities and different times and different things like that. And it is a lot of work if you don't pay someone else to grow it for you. If you do it yourself, it is a lot of work. And that's part of the conversation we had, was that neither of us feel like we have the time on our plate to actually put in the work to grow an audience, to, turn this into something that ends up consistently bringing business, or, consistently growing an audience size, things like that.
Because one of the things that I've been thinking about for this for like a long time is like essentially turning the whole BIL bet thing into something that you could hand to someone and put them on a path to go to, right? And so then think about like how would we deliver that, and who would be involved, and who should be involved, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is not even close to being revenue producing, and I don't know how many people would come along with it. So then the boss in the back of the head starts to be like, hey, like, you need to put this down. You have other stuff to go work on. And so like, that's always the competition in the back of the head of, is this something? Do we turn it into something? This would be cool. But it's not, it's a shiny thing. Right. So
yeah. Well, and when we were talking yesterday, I think you mentioned it already, but like the thing that I value the most, and you kind of alluded to it around the clarity conversations, I just like having someone each morning to check in with, to be like, Jake, get off your ass. Let's go, man. Let's do this. What's your day look like? And that's the most valuable thing that I've been getting for a while. For me, because we haven't been growing an audience, we haven't been doing other things. The guests we've had are a lot of fun. I love the people I've been able to meet, over in the comments, some of them in person even.
Yeah.
And so that's all. But that comes with any cool thing that you do, if you do it for long enough.
Yeah.
So that's
Levi is probably like sitting in his living room, very distraught that like Frisbee golf is no longer going to be an option. But that's not true.
I was just saying, did that happen too?
Don't worry, kiddo. The parents still love you.
Yes, right. Parents still love you. It's not about you. It's about us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's right. Yeah.
Man. Okay. Aquabright's done. Hey,
right, Mom.
There, Ann Small. I was talking with James O'Donnell about this yesterday, and he go, well, that I love it. That's just what he goes by. And I was like, hey, you just started watching the show. What are your thoughts on it? And he's like, I think it's fun. I think it's hard to do lives. I think it's hard to get lives out there done well, right? Because like showing up and going live is the easy part. And I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah. And that's where we are, right? So to do more with this requires time or funds, and both are not like in short supply, but just spoken for, allocated. So and then right, both Jake and I at times are like, hey, are we doing anything with this? Oh yeah, that's right. Are we doing anything with this? Like, we just can't help ourselves. So I'd rather channel that energy and bandwidth consistently into the other things that I am growing. So it was funny because I was talking to Carrie about this, and I was talking about for the book. I was like, hey, we should put something about Morning Bill in the book. And she goes, if you put that in the book, you have to do it forever. Don't do that. I was like,
it's not true, but I see her point.
Yeah, but for me though, man, I am kind of that guy of like, it has been spoken.
Yes.
Right, kind of thing, right? Like I've got a very high commitment to consistency, right? So if we did put it in the book, then I would be inclined.
Yeah.
Right. Be here at like 80 years old. Morning Bill, how's the hip? That kind of thing. Not that I'm terribly far off, but
that's right. How's that wrist doing, by the way?
Man, this thing, it is getting better. I like. At this point, I think it's a mental thing as much as it is anything else, right? Because been working on it. I've got this gyroscoping kind of ball thing, and I've been playing with that a lot. I don't know. It's a work in progress. It's getting there, but man, 40 heals slowly. 40 heals slowly.
Yes.
That's going to be my debut jam.
Yeah.
Michelle, we're going to miss you as well.
Right.
No reason that we cannot like chat and hang out and stuff. We're probably just not going to do it at 7:45 in the morning.
Yeah, which is okay.
Yeah. I'm going to get so much more work done. Seriously. Like that's
Wait, let's
that's
stop
the
there.
that's the upside. That's the
Let's stop
upside.
there. Because let's talk about really enthusiastic John. When something changes, enthusiastic John comes in and goes, "The world has changed. Everything is amazing, and there's all these amazing possibilities now in this new
Yes.
36 minutes that we've created." You know,
Yes.
like in my morning. So
I got to talk myself into it.
yeah, it's
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, I don't really like change, Jake. As a C, C stands for compliant, right? You're compliant to rules and
Yes.
stipulations, right? You want to know the rules of the box. It needs to be fairly well defined. All of these things.
Yes.
So
it's not fun.
Exactly. So we're talking about just like, swinging a wrecking ball through my entire morning routine for the past year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, little uncomfortable about it. So let's look for the good things. I'm going to get a lot more done.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, Mike. So like, what's funny is I come from the opposite way. I'm always like, "Oh, it's fine, we're good," and John's like, "Oh, it's not good. We need to look at this." And so we meet in the middle a lot of times. But and what you just heard is when C's have changed, they either fall apart, right, in a pool of tears, or
Yes.
they psych themselves into the new thing to go, "It's gonna be okay."
Well, okay, so
right.
So hold on a second. Okay, so let's dial this back.
I'm asking, right?
Kind of. Well, okay, hold on. Let me explain.
Yeah.
I block out my mornings as much as I can, right? Because that's the time that is for me, right? Like a key component of my self-care is learning something new, right? If I'm not learning something, I start to feel stagnant. I start to feel fidgety, and then I want to go do something else. Okay, so my morning time from 8 until 11 is mine, right? But as we discussed, some people want to be coached there. I want to coach you when you want to be coached. So yes, you can have this time. So, this is in my week. Right? This is an hour normally on Fridays, and then another 30 minutes 4 days a week, right? So it's 3 hours a week that I get back without having to deal with this. The other part of it is just the mental bandwidth, because I can't stop thinking about growing this thing, right? Like we have a lot of lurkers, right? Which is totally fine. I have no problem with lurkers. I lurk in lots of forums because I'm just there to learn. But it's demoralizing to show up and there's one comment, right? If it's just gonna be one comment, then we might as well just have the call by ourselves. It'll be super short and more effective and efficient. So it's not the greatest mindset to have, but I'm just being really open and honest about it, right? Because I have all these other things, right? If I have 4 things that I'm looking to grow, this other thing is going to look a little odd by comparison, right? It's hard to like just say, "Oh, I'm not going to mess with this at all."
Yeah, the part that I particularly vibe with is the mental bandwidth, because when
Same here, Mike. Exactly the same.
Yeah. Same here. Same to me. It's the mental bandwidth, because the amount of effort it takes to hop in and out of particular projects can be pretty taxing on you throughout a day, throughout a week, throughout a month. And so while it may only be 30 minutes once a day, that 30 minutes may actually free up a couple hours later mentally, because you have your brain someplace else.
Well, and the thing is, I'm so eager to like work with people, like not from like a, "Oh my God, can I please work with you?" But it's like, I like to go deep, right? So there was a guy that I was mentoring, and we were meeting essentially daily for about 30 minutes, talked about our mindset on the calendar, essentially this again, because he was building a business that was going to have a very large sales component. We were going to work together on that. That has since shifted, right? Almost as if like one of these moonshots that I've been working on, talking about another door shuts kind of deal. So that has also come off of the mornings, because it's like, man, if we're not doing that, I'm not sure that it makes sense to meet every day. And he says, "Yeah, I know." And I said, "Man, we can. I just don't think you want to pay for that." Right. And he was like, "Yeah, I can't pay for that." And I was like, "Okay, then we need to put it down." So the thing that's happening is that now I'm actually going to have this time in the mornings to get back to doing a lot of the things, because like I feel like I've been slipping on like tracking some of my creative pushes, and things like that. You can only fish one river at a time is kind of like really what it boils down to. So yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the bad guy. Am I the bad guy?
No, why do you feel that way?
I don't know.
I think it's personality difference. I think you're processing in a different way than I'm processing, but that's standard on every decision we end up making in general.
All right, so let's pull back the curtain a little bit, right? Because in January, you had the same conversation with me.
Yeah.
Dude, what are we doing with this thing? Should we put it down?
Yeah. And
I was like, man, if this is just brand building, if this is just something we're doing, then I think I'm okay with that.
Right. Yeah.
And you were
well, I think you said, what's interesting about what you said is you're constantly, and I'm very similar. You're constantly thinking, if you're working on something more than just once, you're like, okay, how can we grow this thing?
Yeah.
And if it's out of probably, I would say, commitment to each other and our friendship, that we've really kind of just done the thing and not brought it up like every week. Like, hey, I like John. This is giving me some great clarity each morning. There is something being accomplished. I don't really have the time to go try and grow a show. So let's just keep, getting what we can from it. But then at some point, there becomes a moment where you go, okay, is that worth it anymore? That thing of just hanging around.
Okay, so we're gonna back up 1 second, right? Because I don't really feel like this point is being clearly communicated. That's a really good point, Mike. I don't know why I feel bad about it. The other part of this is that so Jake and I typically either have a conversation before the show or after the show.
Yep.
And honestly, that's where the real accountability happens, right? Because we were having a talk yesterday after the show, and Jake was like, this is what I want on the show. And I'm like, I can't talk about this like this on the show.
Right.
Which is essentially exactly what I'm doing right now. But like some of the projects that I'm working on have NDAs attached. There's moving parts. There's people involved. There's things that like I can't just be. Just speaking it out loud on like a live show might not be the smartest thing for me to be doing. So if that 5 to 10 minutes is the best part of the conversation, let's just do that.
Yeah.
Right. So this isn't like, oh, people don't want to watch kind of deal. I'm fine if people want to watch, but if it's just one person and the best part of the conversation is happening not on camera,
right?
That's kind of what it feels like. So
exactly. I think initially, like in the very beginnings, I was thinking I really like C John as an accountability partner,
yes.
on the disc, that conscientious, compliant John, because he's going to call me on my crap, and so that was like, you know what, that might be interesting on air. People would probably like to see that because people don't get to see that. Like, well, I don't get to see that from John, but like people don't get to see people being accountable, like truly accountable to each other very often. I don't think that's modeled well a lot of places. And so that was like the original spark that when you and I first started talking and we kind of started blending ideas, that was the part where I was like, I think people would like this on air, but not thinking about what it takes to actually go out and find an audience and bring them in to get them to watch it, to see if they like it. Right.
Yeah. Because there's something that happens when you decide that you're going to do it for other people, right? Or that other people are involved, right? Because, just by the very idea that like I know that this is going out to people, like the the somewhat brutal nature of my accountability conversation goes away a little bit because I know that there's other people here and stuff like that. And there have been moments where I have called Jake down in accountability and kind of no uncertain terms, but I don't know, because it's this format of a show. I'm like, oh, Slack audience, people change, all of this stuff, right? Because I putting this out there, I got irritated yesterday at Jake because like after the show, we're talking about the show and everything else, and I was like, man, So the original agreement was this. And he was like, yeah, but that's a year ago. I don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, all right, cool. That makes sense. A year has changed. A year has passed. I have changed. But like in that moment, I'm like, why does the year matter?
Yep.
Right. We haven't had a conversation directly that this agreement has changed. So
Right.
how did we get here without talking about it? And that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's hard to want to do that because, you need some space to be able to accept.
Yeah. Well, and that's personality difference too. Like I spend a lot of my time talking things out with people. Like that's how I process information. My dad would never do that, for example. My dad needs to go think about things. He doesn't want to decide and be held to it out loud. Right?
Because when you're a C, man, we don't change very often, right? Because like we're looking for things that like logically make sense, right? We're so fact driven, right? And task driven, right? So what tasks can I do that prove the facts?
Yeah.
And things like that. So
we value consistency so much that if you say something out loud, right, that isn't compliant in the future, or you see it possibly not being compliant, you don't even want to say it because you don't want to be held to that because it's so important to you that you are compliant all the time.
I do that on calls, right? Like I'll have an epiphany and I'm like, wait, do I even want to say that out loud?
Yep. Yeah.
Like I do that.
Yeah. Whereas I have the opposite problem. Like my when I went through counseling and therapy and stuff, she said, you paint with words, Jake, and you just put the words out there and you find the ones that you like, and then you pick the ones you like and you take them down. But everyone else has watched you paint and heard all the words. And so some people aren't going to appreciate that. So you need to pick your words and pause and think on your thoughts a little more, that way you're not unknowingly creating friction or conflict that you didn't intend to create.
That's some of the concern about the book, right? That I'm now like writing this down, and that I'm not going to be able to flex in my ideas or my thoughts, because honestly, just in the time since writing the book, I feel like things have progressed, things have changed, right? Sure. And I'm like, oh, we could talk about, and like everybody stop it, no. But I'm like, I want it to be complete. And they're like, that's why you write more, idiot. And I'm like, no, I know, but like, this is like this is going to have my name on it. Like this is out there. This isn't like a social media post or like a lead magnet. It's kind of a book. And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's permanence. There's permanence to it. There's a feeling
for sure.
Permanence. Yeah.
And so that when you combine that with the C of like, commitment to consistency is like a very high thing for me, right? So that was kind of the head scratch around that. But this is just, if we're not doing the best part on the show and it's not doing the thing that we thought it was going to do, why do it?
It's just a smart decision at that point.
Yeah.
Despite the hole that it feels like, it leaves in your morning routine, my morning routine, our morning routine, Yeah. So, well, guess what? We've got 3 more days to talk about it. So
we do. Yeah. 3 more days to talk about it.
And I have an 8:15. So
yes, I do as well. Got that. Avondale sales training with the new team, catching up with a friend of mine. This dude is awesome. His name's Rick Sanchez. We did Kung Fu together. He was in the Army. I was in the Army. And then this dude actually went and did something after like being in the Army. He went to college, became an engineer, and then he was just like, you know what? Sometimes these engineers get taken advantage of. So then he goes back to school, law school, and this dude is now a patent attorney. Like he does like a lot of stuff around like IP law. Just super dope dude, human, awesome guy. So we're gonna have like a Zoom kind of catch up because it's been a long time. Digital coffee, those are the best ones. Sales lab, and then coaching.
Awesome.
What do you got?
Awesome. So we'll put links up there. And the best way to get a hold of John and I is our social media profiles. We write our profiles in a way that if you want to find us, you can come find us.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you want, go to any one of our LinkedIn, Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram, any place you want to go. We have links there where you can find us and work with us. So thanks for asking, Em. Appreciate that.
I think that is Anne trying to show us like why this thing is not growing.
Yes.
Hey guys,
Yes.
why don't you call us to action?
Yes.
And we're like, oh yeah, calls to action are important.
Yes.
See you tomorrow.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. She that's exactly what she's doing. I'm glad that you peeled that out too, because I see her do that on the show, and I thank her afterwards. I'm like, hey, thanks for doing that. I appreciate you doing that.
Yes.
So, all right, I gotta run.
Yeah, we gotta go. See you guys. Thank you, everybody. Mike and Michelle, you guys are awesome.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers.
Bye.